I'm Samadhi. I have two boys. The first one is Ethan, who's 6 years old. The second one is Kian, who's 4 years old, who happens to also live with cerebral palsy. I'm also an MA student at York University in critical disability studies, and my research focus is on the inequities of accessing home care services for medically complex children in Ontario. Kian cannot meet any of his daily living needs by himself. So he can eat by himself, but he needs somebody there to help him sometimes use a fork or a spoon. He can't go to the washroom on his own. He can't walk or stand or sit on his own. He's just starting to talk a little bit, but he's more on the cusp of nonverbal than verbal. He also has a bit of PTSD when there's physicians in the room or nurses in the room in their scrubs. There's a lot of anxiety, a lot of trauma from just a lot of the procedures that he's gone through in his 4 years of life. It's been really hard on him and all of us. But he can do a lot of other amazing things. So he can build Lego with his brother. He plays on his iPad really well. He uses a power wheelchair. He's very mischievous. He loves to do very dangerous and risky things. I think the greatest challenge has been, for me, is not having Kian with special needs. It's how society understands Kian. Kian has experienced a lot of discrimination and stigma just because he's a child in a wheelchair. Go to the mall and people will be staring, and that's hard, really hard. Sometimes you can just ignore it, and other days you just get so upset about it because it's like he's just like any other kid. He just has a different way of living. Everything is like a little celebration in our household. Nothing is too small to celebrate, and we just value life for what it is. There's been a lot of times when Kian was much younger where we didn't know if we would see him the next day, and so we spend as much time as we can with Kian and enjoy all the moments we have with him. I think the first piece of advice is that your child's the same child with or without the diagnosis. I think also as parents we internalize a lot of guilt, and we internalize a lot of almost like we failed as a parent because we have a child who's disabled. And I think we need to be a little bit critical on how society has situated what is the ideal child to have and what isn't the ideal child to have. And to understand that the children that we have, whether disabled or not, at the end of the day, they're just as human, and they deserve to live no matter what. When you go to these physicians or even therapists, and they're so fixated on our kids meeting certain goals within a certain time span, and they're thinking they're being rational and logical, but it almost becomes like morally problematic because it situates disabled bodies as almost less than non-disabled bodies, and that's some kind of rhetoric within the medical field that really needs to be addressed. It has a huge impact on the family, and it has a huge impact on the child as well. I wish health professionals would speak about Kian and children like Kian with empathy. When they saw Kian and they started talking about Kian as if he was an object or the monstrous child, they would say really like, he has very dysmorphic features. They would say his nasal bridge is very wide, his eyebrows are really hairy. And so I sat there and I looked at them and they were like, don't worry, Mom, this is how we talk about your son like this, because like it's just like medical terminology and we don't mean anything by it. And I looked at him and I said, look, I said, I need you to leave right now. I said, and please do not come back again. I said, you just sat here for 5 minutes talking to the next generation of doctors about my son as if he was basically some monster. Advocating, like, personally, I don't like doing it. It's so draining. It's exhausting, emotionally laboring. I mean, I wouldn't have to advocate if the world was built to include my son. Sometimes my self-care, honestly, is just singing in the car and dancing, literally. So it could be even like a date night, right? Like either by yourself or with your parents or with your partner. Or it could be even just as simple as just like having cheesecake or dancing in the car. In terms of siblings, the boys, they're like best friends, and they also bicker as well, which is nice to see. When I was about to register Kian for school, and Ethan's like, "Mom, why doesn't Kian come to school with me?" And I said to him, "Well, your school doesn't have an elevator. It just has stairs." And he was like, "But then just tell my principal to build an elevator." And I was like, it's not that easy. They see a lot of things that a lot of siblings would never see, or that you and I would never see in a million years if we didn't have children with disabilities. They grow up a little bit faster. They see the world a little bit differently. But they appreciate the little things just as much as the parents do of the children with disabilities.